So what the is fascism anyway? Is it, as Merriam-Webster defines it, a political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual and that stands for a centralized, autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of opposition? 2. A tendency towards or actual exercise of strong autocratic or dictatorial control. This sure sounds a lot like fascism, right? But this does not bring us to the core of fascism and does not provide us with a deep understanding of what fascism is. The dictionary is a great place to start researching, but it's a jumping off point to gain a surface level of understanding of words and ideas. But these characteristics presented by Merriam-Webster are not unique to fascism. Did we not have racist, dictatorial states under colonialism or under past empires? We have. It is also, in my opinion, it leaves out the most important aspect of defining fascism, its class character. As an anti-fascist, it's obviously important to determine exactly what it is we are anti, not vague references to characteristics of fascism such as those provided by Merriam-Webster, that by themselves, even lumped together, do not give us the full scope of fascism. Can fascism be described by the famous quote attributed to Mussolini? Fascism should be more appropriately be called corporatism because it is a merger of state and corporate power. By the way, he did not say this. However, it's not all that far from what he did say, which we'll get into during part 2. But this definition also leaves much more room for further observations and a more finite definition of what fascism means. And is capitalism not the merger of corporate and state power? By concretely defining fascism, we can better examine and take advantage of its inner contradictions. We are better armed to fight it or to stop it from coming to power at all. Stick around for part 2, where we will examine the class nature of fascism and define it from the perspective of those who fought it and the inventor of fascism himself, Mussolini. Conception of a corporate state. No individuals nor groups, political parties, associations, labor unions, classes outside the state. For this reason, fascism is opposed to socialism, which clings rigidly to class war and the historic evolution and ignores the unity of the state, which molds the classes into a single moral and economic reality. In the same way, fascism is opposed to the unions of the laboring classes. But within the orbit of the state, with ordinative functions, the real needs which give rise to the socialist movement and to the forming of labor unions are emphatically recognized by fascism and are given their full expression in the corporative system, which conciliates every interest in the unity of the state. In 1905, Milner, one of the more far-seeing leaders of the older British imperialism, described in a private letter the only hope that he could see for the salvation of bourgeois rule. Perhaps a great charlatan, political scallywag, buffoon, liar, stump orator, and in other respects popular favorite, may someday arise who is nevertheless a statesman. The combination is not impossible, and who, having attained power by popular acts, may use it for national ends. It is an off chance, but I do not see any other." End quote. From the author. Here we see the bourgeoisie consciously groping for the forms of fascism long before fascism existed. The fact that so lifelike a description of Hitler or Mussolini could have been penned a decade before these began to play their role is a striking confirmation of how little it is personality that creates history, and how much rather history calls forth the personality that it requires at any given stage. Fascism does not come into existence because a leader arises. On the contrary, because the bourgeoisie requires fascism, a leader is created from such materials as can be found. Fascism never intended to offer a social solution that would serve the general populace, only a reactionary one, forcing all the burdens and losses onto the working public. Divested of its ideological and organizational paraphernalia, Fascism is nothing more than a final solution to the class struggle, the totalistic submergence and exploitation of democratic forces for the benefit and profit of the higher financial circles. Fascism is a false revolution. It cultivates the appearance of popular politics and a revolutionary aura without offering a genuine revolutionary class content. It propagates a new order while serving the same old moneyed interest. Its leaders are not guilty of confusion but of deception. That they work hard to mislead the public does not mean they themselves are misled. Georgi Dimitrov and the Fascist Offensive. Great book. It's free online. Give it a Google. In the section, United Front of the Working Class Against Fascism. Comrades, millions of workers and working people of the capitalist countries are asking the question, how can fascism be prevented from coming to power, and how can fascism be overthrown after it has attained power? The first thing that must be done, the thing with which to begin, is to form a united front, to establish unity of action of the workers in every factory, in every district, in every region, in every country, all over the world. Unity of action of the proletariat on a national and international scale is the mighty weapon which renders the working class capable not only of successful defense, but also of successful counterattack against fascism, against the class enemy. Joint action by the parties of both internationals against fascism, however, would not be confined in its effects to influencing their present adherents. The communists and social democrats, it would also exert a powerful impact on the ranks of the Catholic, anarchist, and unorganized workers, even upon those who have temporarily become the victims of fascist demagogy. Might be saying that wrong. Moreover, a powerful united front of the proletariat would exert tremendous influence on all other strata of the working people, on the peasantry, on the urban petty bourgeoisie, on the intelligentsia. A united front would inspire the wavering groups with faith in the strength of the working class. But even this is not all. The proletariat of the imperialist countries has possible allies not only in the working people of its own countries, but also in the oppressed nations of the colonies and semi-colonies. Inasmuch as the proletariat is split both nationally and internationally, inasmuch as one of its parts supports the policy of collaboration with the bourgeoisie, in particular its system of oppression in the colonies and semi-colonies, a barrier is put between the working class and the oppressed peoples of the colonies and semi-colonies, and the world anti-imperialist front is weakened. Every step by the proletariat of the imperialist countries on the road to unity of action in the direction of supporting the struggle for the liberation of the colonial peoples means transforming the colonies and semi-colonies into one of the most important reserves of the world proletariat.